The message arrived on a Tuesday, encoded in patterns of light that made Earth's most advanced quantum computers stutter. When finally decoded, its contents sent ripples of disbelief through the halls of the United Earth Space Command. The Ntheri, a species humanity had never heard of, were dying, and they claimed that humans were their last hope. Commander Sarah Chen stood before the holographic display in UESC headquarters, studying the strange crystalline structures that the Ntheri called home. Their star system lay 60 light-years from Earth, yet they had somehow been watching humanity for decades. The images showed beings that seemed more like living artwork than creatures. Translucent bodies housing swirling patterns of bioluminescence, floating in atmospheres that would kill a human in seconds. "They're asking for our DNA," General Rivera said, his weathered face illuminated by the hologram's glow. "Not our technology, not our resources. They want our genetic material." Sarah traced the graceful spires of an Ntheri city with her finger. "Why us? They're clearly more advanced." Their message crossed 60 light-years in days. "We've barely reached Mars." "Because we're survivors," Rivera replied, pulling up another image. Earth, as seen through Ntheri eyes. Their scans depicted the planet's history in layers: impact craters, extinction events, ice ages, and through it all, the steady march of human progress. "They've been studying us since we split the atom. They call Earth a crucible world, a planet that should be too hostile for intelligent life. Yet here we are." The Ntheri's message played again, their mathematical language converted into haunting, crystalline tones. Their sun was dying, centuries ahead of schedule. They needed to evacuate their entire civilization, but their bodies were too specialized, too perfect for their own world. They couldn't survive the journey, let alone establish a new home. "They want to create hybrid warriors," Sarah realized, the pieces clicking into place, combining their biological engineering with our adaptability. Rivera nodded grimly. "They're offering an exchange. Access to their bioengineering technology, which could end disease on Earth, in return for human DNA and volunteers to help train whatever they create." Sarah studied the data scrolling past. The Ntheri hadn't just observed humanity. They'd analyzed them down to the cellular level. They knew exactly what they wanted: the genes that let humans survive radiation, adapt to altitude, endure extreme temperatures. The traits that made Earth's children the ultimate survivors. "There's something they're not telling us," Sarah said, focusing on a pattern in their message, a recurring symbol that the computers had flagged as indicating urgency. "This isn't just about their son dying. They're afraid of something." "Smart girl," Rivera sighed, activating another data stream. Their probes detected something at the edge of their system. Large objects, moving at relativistic speeds. They think they're being hunted. The new images chilled Sarah to her core. Massive ships, organic yet metallic, like the shells of prehistoric creatures scaled up to impossible sizes. What are they? The Ntheri don't know. They've picked up similar signals from other dying star systems. Whatever these things are, they follow collapse and extinction like vultures. Rivera turned to Sarah, his expression grave. "We're assembling a volunteer force. The best of our best. People who can handle extreme conditions, who can think on their feet, and who can teach others to survive." Sarah felt the weight of his words, knew what was coming next. She'd spent her career training special forces for off-world operations, teaching them to survive in the harshest environments Mars and the Moon could offer. "When do we leave?" "That's my girl." Rivera smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "The Ntheri are sending a ship. It'll be here in 3 days. They say their solar observatory gives them less than 6 months before their star begins its final phase. We'll have that long to help them create and train a force capable of protecting an evacuation fleet." Sarah began mentally preparing, running through lists of equipment, personnel, training protocols. But a question nagged at her. "Sir, what happens if we fail? If whatever's hunting them decides to come here next?" Rivera's answer was interrupted by a priority alert. New data from the Ntheri. The hologram shifted, showing the massive ships at the edge of their system. They were accelerating. "That's no longer a hypothetical concern," Commander Rivera said quietly. "If we fail, if Earth becomes known to these hunters, we won't just be losing allies. We'll be next on their menu." Sarah squared her shoulders, her decision made. Humanity had clawed its way up from the mud, survived ice ages and asteroids, and their own nuclear follies. They'd learned to survive, to adapt, to fight back against anything nature could throw at them. Now it was time to teach those skills to others. "Send the word out," she said. "I want volunteers who've survived the impossible, who've beaten the odds. The Ntheri need warriors. We'll show them what Earth's children can do." As she left the briefing room, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than a rescue mission. Humanity was about to prove why being from a death world wasn't a disadvantage. It was the ultimate advantage. They would show the galaxy why you should never underestimate a species that learned to thrive in hell. The clock was ticking. The hunters were coming, and humanity was about to share its greatest gift, the ability to survive against all odds. The Ntheri transport ship was a living thing. Sarah watched her team's reactions as they stepped aboard, their faces reflecting the same mix of awe and unease she felt. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and corridors shifted and reformed as they walked, guided by thought rather than physical mechanisms. Dr. James Rodriguez, their lead geneticist, ran his scanner over a nearby wall. "It's not just alive, it's conscious. The whole ship is a single organism." "Correct, Dr. Rodriguez," came a melodic voice. An Ntheri emerged from what had appeared to be a solid wall, its crystalline body refracting the ship's internal light into rainbow patterns. "I am Navigator Ixal. The vessel is an extension of our consciousness, as all our technology is." Sarah studied their alien host. The briefings hadn't prepared her for how alien the Ntheri truly were. Their bodies seemed to be composed of living crystal, with complex organic structures floating in transparent tissues. They moved with impossible grace, as if gravity was merely a suggestion. "Your adaptation to our environment is remarkable," Ixal observed. "Our simulations suggested most species would require extensive protection from our ship's resonance field. Humans are good at adapting," Sarah replied, thinking of the genetic treatments they'd all undergone before departure. "Though I suspect you already knew that." The Ntheri's internal lights flickered in what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of a smile. "Indeed, it is why we chose your species. Come, there is much to show you, and time grows short." They were led through chambers that defied physics, spaces that seemed to fold in on themselves. The ship was carrying them across light years and days, using principles of space-time manipulation that Earth's scientists were only beginning to theorize about. Their destination was a vast chamber that Sarah could only describe as a combination of laboratory and nursery. Massive crystal columns housed swirling genetic sequences, while smaller chambers contained what appeared to be developing organisms. "Our first attempts," Ixal explained, gesturing to the nearest chamber. Inside, something vaguely humanoid floated in a luminescent fluid. "We began with your genetic samples as soon as they arrived. The results have been challenging." Dr. Rodriguez examined the creature. "Cellular degradation. The human DNA is rejecting the crystal matrix you're trying to incorporate." "Precisely." Ixal's color darkened with concern. "We can create bodies with human adaptability or Ntheri consciousness, but combining both causes cascade failures. We need your expertise, not just your genes, but your understanding of how humans overcome biological limitations." Sarah moved closer to another chamber, this one containing a more successful specimen. It looked almost human, but its skin had a crystalline quality, and patterns of light pulsed beneath its surface. "How many viable subjects have you produced?" "3, Ixal admitted. "All in suspended animation until we can ensure stability. But we need thousands to protect the evacuation fleet. And our time." The Ntheri paused as a wave of darker colors washed through their body. The hunters have accelerated again. Our latest calculations give us 4 months, not 6. Tell us about these hunters, Sarah pressed. We need to know what we're up against. Ixal led them to a different chamber, this one dedicated to stellar observations. The holographic display showed the massive ships they'd seen in the briefings, but now in much greater detail. They were biological in nature, like the Entheri ships, but twisted into shapes that seemed designed to inspire terror. We call them the Harvesters, Ixal explained. They appear when civilizations are at their most vulnerable. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply take everything. Knowledge, technology, resources, people. The Entheri's voice carried centuries of accumulated dread. They have never failed to completely consume a civilization once they target it. Dr. Rodriguez was already running simulations on his tablet. We're approaching this wrong, he muttered. We're trying to create warriors when we should be creating survivors. Sarah turned to him. Explain. The Entheri are trying to engineer the perfect soldier, but that's not what makes humans special. Our strength isn't in being the strongest or fastest. It's in our ability to keep going when everything goes wrong. To improvise, adapt, survive. Ixal's colors shifted to show interest. You suggest we modify our approach. Completely, Rodriguez said. Instead of trying to force human DNA to accept your crystal matrix, we should be looking at how human cells naturally adapt to extreme conditions. Our bodies are constantly changing, evolving at a cellular level to meet new challenges. Sarah watched understanding flow through Ixal's body in waves of light. You believe we can create hybrids that will develop their own adaptations. Better, Rodriguez smiled. I think we can create hybrids that will never stop adapting. But we'll need volunteers willing to undergo the process while conscious. The human mind's survival instinct might be the key to stabilizing the fusion. Sarah knew what had to happen next. She began removing her jacket. I volunteer. Commander, no, Rodriguez protested. The risk is necessary, she cut him off. We don't have time for cautious approaches. The Harvesters are coming, and we need to know if this will work. She turned to Ixal. How soon can we begin? The Entheri's colors swirled with a mixture of hope and concern. The integration chamber can be prepared within hours. But, Commander, the process will be excruciating. Your consciousness will need to remain active throughout the entire genetic restructuring. Sarah thought of Earth, of the peaceful Entheri facing extinction, of the Harvesters lurking at the edge of the system. Humanity had evolved through countless challenges, each crisis forcing them to adapt or die. Now they had the chance to share that gift of survival with another species. Pain is temporary, she said, her voice firm. Extinction is forever. Let's show the galaxy what happens when humanity's will to survive meets Entheri engineering. As the integration chamber was prepared, Sarah sent a message to her team. By the time she emerged, if she emerged, she needed them ready to follow her example. The Entheri would have their hybrid warriors, forged not in the cold equations of genetic engineering, but in the burning crucible of human determination. The Harvesters were about to learn why you should never corner a species that evolved on a death world. Sometimes, the most dangerous prey is the one that refuses to die. Pain had become Sarah's world for 3 days. Every cell in her body had been unmade and reborn, crystal matrices weaving through her transformed tissues like delicate frost patterns. When she finally emerged from the integration chamber, she was something new, neither human nor Entheri, but a bridge between worlds. Her skin held a subtle crystalline sheen, and patterns of light pulsed beneath its surface in rhythm with her heartbeat. But the most profound changes were invisible to the eye. She could feel the ship's living systems, sense the subtle quantum fields that the Entheri used for communication, and her mind processed information with crystal clarity. Remarkable, Dr. Rodriguez breathed, examining her latest test results. Your cellular structure is completely stable. The crystal matrix isn't just surviving, it's evolving, adapting to strengthen your existing capabilities. Sarah flexed her hand, watching light dance beneath her transformed skin. How many volunteers have followed my example? 57 successful integrations so far, Ixal reported, their colors bright with hope. Each fusion is more stable than the last, as we learn from each attempt. But their lights dimmed slightly. The harvesters have crossed the heliobos. They will reach our outer colonies in 28 days. Then we'd better accelerate our timeline. Sarah turned to the observation window, where dozens of hybrid warriors were training in the ship's massive central chamber. They moved with impossible grace, combining human tactical thinking with in-theory biological advantages. How many do we need? At minimum, 500 to protect the evacuation fleet. Rodriguez pulled up the latest projections. But even with the process perfected, we can only create 20 viable hybrids per day. The biological resources required. An alarm cut through their discussion. Red warning lights pulsed through the ship's living walls. Sarah felt the danger through her new connection to the ship's systems before Ixal announced it. Harvester scout ship detected. The Entheri's voice carried notes of terror that translated perfectly through their quantum link. It's approaching the training facility on the outer moon. Sarah was moving before conscious thought, her enhanced body responding with preternatural speed. How many hybrid warriors are combat ready? 32, Ixal replied. But they've never faced actual combat. They're about to. Sarah reached out through her quantum link, connecting with the other hybrids. Their minds joined with hers, a perfect fusion of human tactical experience and in-theory collective consciousness. This is what we trained for. Time to show these harvesters what happens when you corner a Deathworlder. The response was immediate. Within minutes, 3 squadrons of hybrid warriors were boarding living ships, their minds linked in perfect communion. Sarah led them, piloting her vessel through thought alone as they streaked toward the outer moon. The Harvester scout ship was massive, a twisted amalgamation of organic and crystalline technology that seemed designed to inspire terror. As they approached, Sarah understood why civilizations fell before them. Everything about their design spoke of inexorable, unstoppable hunger. Remember your training, she broadcast to her squadrons. We have advantages they've never encountered. Use them. The battle that followed would be studied for generations to come. The hybrid warriors moved with impossible coordination, their linked minds anticipating each other's actions perfectly. Their ships, extensions of their transformed bodies, danced through space in patterns that defied conventional tactics. The Harvester Scout was powerful, its weapons capable of shredding normal ships with ease, but it had never encountered anything like these hybrid warriors. When it fired its main weapon, the hybrid ships shifted their crystalline structures to absorb and redirect the energy. When it launched biological weapons, human immune responses enhanced by in-theory engineering neutralized them instantly. Sarah led her forces in an intricate battle dance, using maneuvers that would have killed unmodified humans. Their enhanced bodies could withstand forces that would crush normal ships, allowing them to execute tight turns and sudden accelerations that the massive Harvester couldn't match. But the true turning point came when they engaged their quantum links at full power. 33 minds became one, processing battlefield information with both human intuition and in-theory precision. They found patterns in the Harvester's attacks, weaknesses in its biological armor, and gaps in its defenses. The end, when it came, was decisive. Concentrated fire from all squadrons, perfectly coordinated through their shared consciousness, broke through the Harvester's shields. Sarah felt a moment of savage satisfaction as their weapons burned through its hull, reducing the nightmare ship to drifting debris. As they returned to base, however, she felt something else through the quantum link, a ripple of shock from Ixal and the other in-theory observers. This changes everything, Ixal communicated, their thoughts tinged with awe. No one has ever destroyed a Harvester ship before. Not in all our recorded history. Sarah watched her warriors dock, their ships melding seamlessly with the station's living walls. They had proven the concept, shown that the hybrid program worked. But she knew this was just the beginning. They'll come in force now, she said, feeling the truth of it in her enhanced mind. This was just a scout. When the main fleet arrives, they'll be ready for us. Through the quantum link, she felt the other hybrids' response, not fear, but fierce determination. They were something new in the galaxy. Beings with humanity's indomitable will to survive combined with in-theory biological mastery. They had transcended the limitations of both species to become something greater. Let them come, Sarah broadcast, feeling her warriors' agreement resonate through their shared consciousness. We'll show them why you should never underestimate a species that evolved fighting impossible odds. We're not just warriors, we're survival incarnate. As she issued orders for accelerated hybrid production and new training protocols, Sarah felt the quantum link pulse with shared purpose. The harvesters thought they were hunting easy prey. Instead, they had awakened something unprecedented, a force that combined humanity's relentless determination with in-theory evolutionary mastery. The real war was about to begin, and Sarah intended to show the galaxy exactly what Deathworlders could do when pushed to their limits. The Harvester main fleet arrived like a nightmare made real. 300 massive ships, each one larger than Earth's largest cities, emerged from quantum space in perfect attack formation. Their biological hulls writhed with weapon growths, and their very presence seemed to distort the fabric of space around them. Sarah stood in the command center of the in-theory defense platform, her crystalline-enhanced eyes taking in the tactical display. Through the quantum link, she felt the presence of 400 hybrid warriors. Not enough, but they would have to be sufficient. They've adapted their ships, Dr. Rodriguez observed, studying the sensor readings. The biological components have been modified to resist our previous attack patterns. Of course they have, Sarah replied, feeling the truth of it through her enhanced senses. They're like a virus, evolving in response to every defense they encounter. But so are we. The past month had been a crucible of constant evolution. Each new batch of hybrid warriors emerged stronger than the last, their bodies and minds adapting to challenges in ways neither humans nor in-theory could have managed alone. But would it be enough? Evacuation status? Sarah asked, her thoughts reaching through the quantum link to the in-theory coordinators. 60% of our population is secured in the ARC ships, Ixel reported, their crystalline form pulsing with anxiety. But we need at least 6 more hours to complete the transfer. Sarah nodded, already formulating battle plans through the group consciousness she shared with her warriors. Then we'll give you 6 hours, no matter the cost. The Harvester fleet split into 3 attack groups, their formations suggesting both tactical sophistication and absolute confidence in their superiority. They had never failed to consume a civilization before. They had never needed to adapt their strategies. That was about to change. All warriors, execute Protocol Omega, Sarah broadcast through the quantum link. 400 hybrid minds synchronized with hers, their shared consciousness expanding to encompass the very space around them. What followed was warfare unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The hybrid warriors, their bodies and ships now perfectly integrated through in-theory biotechnology, moved as one organism. They had learned to manipulate the quantum fields that the in-theory used for communication, turning them into weapons that disrupted the Harvester's biological systems. The first wave of Harvester ships fired their main weapons, beams of corrupted energy that could slice through normal matter like paper. But the hybrids had evolved beyond normal matter. Their crystalline structures diffracted the energy, turning the deadly beams into harmless light shows. They're targeting the evacuation ships, Rodriguez warned, watching as a group of harvesters broke through the defensive line. Sarah felt a surge of protective rage course through the quantum link. Not on our watch. She directed 3 squadrons to execute a maneuver that would have been impossible for either humans or in-theory alone. The hybrid ships linked together, their crystalline structures merging into a massive lattice. Energy flowed between them, building to impossible levels. When they released it, the burst of power created a localized quantum disruption that ripped apart a dozen harvester vessels. But the harvesters were learning. adapting their tactics with terrifying speed. Their ships began to emit fields that interfered with the quantum link, trying to isolate the hybrid warriors from their shared consciousness. They're trying to force us to fight as individuals, Sarah realized. They think we'll be weaker alone. Through the quantum link, she felt something unexpected, laughter from her warriors. The harvesters didn't understand. Every human was born alone, forced to develop individual strength before learning to work with others. Isolation wouldn't weaken them. It would remind them of their Deathworld heritage. Show them, Sarah commanded. Show them what Earth's children can do. The hybrid warriors scattered, each one becoming a singular threat. They had humanity's capacity for individual action, combined with nth-theory biological mastery. Some transformed their ships into living weapons, crystalline structures becoming impossibly sharp blades that cut through harvester hulls. Others turned their vessels into living bombs, their human survival instincts allowing them to push nth-theory biotechnology far beyond its intended limits. Hours passed in a battle that redefined the nature of space warfare. The harvesters, for the first time in their long history of consumption, found themselves facing prey that grew stronger with every attack. Each hybrid warrior who fell transferred their evolved adaptations to the others through the quantum link, making the survivors even more formidable. But victory was coming at a terrible cost. Sarah felt every death through the quantum link, each lost warrior taking a piece of their collective strength. They had destroyed over half the harvester fleet, but their own numbers were dropping dangerously low. Evacuation status, she demanded, watching another squadron sacrifice themselves to protect the Ark ships. 98% complete, Ixel reported. But the remaining harvesters are concentrating their attacks on the transfer stations. We can't complete the evacuation unless we give you one final push, Sarah finished. She looked at the tactical display, seeing the pattern that had been forming throughout the battle. The harvesters weren't just attacking. They were learning, evolving, preparing for something bigger. Through the quantum link, she felt the same realization ripple through her surviving warriors. The harvesters weren't just trying to consume the nth-theory civilization. They were adapting to fight humanity next. We can't let them complete their evolution, Sarah broadcast to her remaining forces. Whatever it takes, they don't leave this system. For Earth, for the nth-theory, for every species that deserves the right to survive. The response through the quantum link was unanimous. They would make their final stand here, ensuring that the harvesters never threatened another civilization again. But as they prepared for their last assault, Sarah felt something strange through the quantum link, a new possibility, born from the desperate fusion of human determination and nth-theory biotechnology. The true power of their hybrid nature was about to be revealed, and the harvesters were about to learn the final lesson of challenging a Deathworld species. Sometimes, the most dangerous moment is when victory seems certain. Sarah felt it first through the quantum link, a transformation more profound than anything they had undergone before. The remaining hybrid warriors, pushed to their absolute limits, were changing in response to the harvesters' relentless assault. Their crystalline structures began resonating at frequencies that transcended normal spacetime, creating patterns that mimicked the very fabric of the universe. Commander, Rodriguez's voice cracked with awe as he studied his readings. The crystal matrices, they're not just adapting anymore. They're evolving into something else entirely. Through her enhanced senses, Sarah understood what was happening. Humanity's endless drive to survive, combined with nth-theory biotechnology, had created something unprecedented. The hybrid warriors weren't just fighting the harvesters. They were becoming living quantum processors, capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of reality. All surviving warriors, she broadcast through the quantum link. Synchronize with me. Complete integration protocol. The remaining 150 hybrid warriors linked their consciousness with hers. Their shared awareness expanded beyond physical limitations, reaching into the quantum realm where the nth-theory had first learned to manipulate spacetime. But now, driven by human determination and enhanced by their evolved capabilities, they pushed far beyond what the nth-theory had thought possible. The harvesters sensed the change. Their remaining ships, still numbering over 100, began concentrating their fire on the hybrid warriors. But their weapons, designed to destroy matter, proved useless against beings who had transcended traditional physical forms. The evacuation, Ixal communicated urgently. The final Ark ships are ready to launch, but the harvesters are blocking their escape vectors. Sarah felt a smile form on her crystalline features. Then it's time to show them what happens when you push evolution too far. Through the quantum link, she shared her plan with her warriors. Their response was immediate and unanimous. They would remake themselves one final time. The hybrid warriors moved their ships into a perfect geometric pattern, their crystalline structures resonating in harmony. As the harvesters launched their final assault, something extraordinary happened. The space between the hybrid ships began to crystallize, quantum fields solidifying into structures that defied conventional physics. "By all that's sacred," Rodriguez whispered, watching his instruments go haywire. "They're creating a quantum lattice across the entire battlefield." The harvesters, sensing the threat, tried to retreat, but they had spent too long learning to fight in normal space. The hybrid warriors had evolved beyond such limitations. Their quantum lattice expanded exponentially, trapping the harvester ships in a crystalline web that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Now," Sarah commanded, her consciousness merged completely with her warriors. "Show them what true adaptation means." The lattice began to pulse with energy drawn from the quantum realm itself. The hybrid warriors, their bodies now more energy than matter, poured their combined will into the structure. They had become living weapons, powered by humanity's refusal to accept defeat and guided by Entheri mastery of biological engineering. The harvesters' ships began to break apart, their biological components unable to withstand exposure to pure quantum energy. But Sarah and her warriors weren't interested in mere destruction. Through their evolved senses, they could see the pattern of the harvesters' existence, the genetic memory that allowed them to adapt and consume civilizations. "We're not just going to destroy them," Sarah broadcast to her warriors. "We're going to make sure they can never threaten another species again." The quantum lattice contracted, compressing the harvester fleet into an ever smaller space. But as it did, it rewrote the very genetic code of their biological ships. The hybrid warriors used their perfect understanding of adaptation and survival to introduce a new imperative into the harvesters' core programming: a compulsion to preserve rather than consume. The process took mere minutes, but it changed the course of galactic history. When the quantum lattice finally dissolved, the surviving harvester ships were transformed. Their twisted biological weapons had been converted into life support systems. Their consuming maws had become terraforming engines. "It's done," Sarah announced, feeling the truth of it through her evolved senses. "The harvesters are no longer hunters. We've given them a new purpose, to help life flourish rather than consume it." Through the quantum link, she felt the satisfaction of her warriors. They had done more than win a battle. They had proven that evolution didn't have to mean endless competition. Sometimes, the ultimate adaptation was learning to protect rather than destroy. The Entheri Ark ships launched safely, carrying their civilization to new stars where they would rebuild. But they wouldn't go alone. The hybrid warriors, forever changed by their transformation, would accompany them as guardians and teachers. They would share their gift, the perfect fusion of human determination and Entheri innovation, with other species facing extinction. Sarah stood in the command center one last time, watching the Ark ships disappear into quantum space. Her body shimmered with crystalline energy, a testament to how far they had come from their Deathworld origins. "You know," Rodriguez said quietly, "when we first received the Entheri's call for help, we thought we were just going to teach them how to survive. Instead, we learned how to transcend survival itself." Sarah nodded, feeling the quantum link pulse with the combined consciousness of her warriors. "That's humanity's greatest strength. We don't just adapt to survive, we adapt to thrive, and we bring others with us." The transformed harvester ships fell into formation around them, ready to begin their new mission. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be. Evolution, they had proven, wasn't just about becoming stronger or more deadly. Sometimes, the greatest adaptation was learning to turn enemies into allies and turning survival of the fittest into survival of the wisest. As they prepared to follow the Ark ships into quantum space, Sarah felt a deep satisfaction. They had done more than save a civilization. They had created a new path forward for life itself. And it had all started with a simple truth. When you push a Deathworld species to its limits, you don't just get survivors. You get pioneers of evolution itself.